What's up, guys? Our Wrestling Podcast back at you with another episode. This is Dave Vicious, along with Just the Total Package, and Craig, the British Bulldog, bring you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. Today's topic, favorite Survivor Series moments for audio fans. Give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts, or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel. On social media, can you give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast? Jess, is the Survivor
keep
Series
following
season?
the dumb shit people you always follow. Don't follow quality. Don't do it. Why would you?
Whoa.
Wings.
Follow Woo Wings.
Exactly.
I love being lazy, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm super lazy with our topics lately, because once I stumbled across the free-form topics, which I don't know what I've been doing for the past 4 years.
They work.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing for the past 4 years. But now I'm like, okay, I'm only going to write bullet point and waste my time on notes, like for legacies and stuff like that. It's way better to be lazy and do like freeform shit. And I enjoy it. So as we release it, hopefully if it gets more views, then maybe I'm onto something. Woo Wigs. We're talking about where it's November. So let's talk about Survivor Series, because they're going to fucking do the show. And they're going to call it Survivor Series, and they have war games attached to it now, which is awesome. But some of our favorite moments doesn't have to be, from a war games. They only did it for the first time last year. They put the war games as, and what better way to survive than in a cage?
It is one of my favorite moments. It's on my list.
It used to be, and for a long time,
I bought the sweatshirt.
Yeah, you did, and it did get stale for a while, and I understand why. But it was. People forget. People think SummerSlam was like the number 2, and I think maybe it's the number 2 most important pay-per-view. But Survivor Series was the number 2 pay-per-view, period. After WrestleMania, they had WrestleMania, and then they did Survivor Series in November of 1987. So Survivor Series is the second. It's one of the big 2. It goes WrestleMania and Survivor Series, not WrestleMania and SummerSlam. I repeat, not WrestleMania and SummerSlam. It is WrestleMania and Survivor Series. So for a long time, it did get stale. And then before Vince got unseated, unceremoniously, I might add, he tried to do we'll do like the SmackDown champions against the Raw champions. And then that sucked because it's what people accuse AEW of doing, which is good matches, but no storyline or substance behind them. And then so that didn't work very well. And now Triple H has attached the War Games to it. But I wanted us to go around the table, talk about the Survivor Series that we know. So it doesn't have to be from when we were kids. It could be in the mid-2000s, the 2010 area, or whatever. There's actually the reason why I chose this as well is because Survivor Series actually has a lot of fucking moments when you really research it and you really look back. There's a lot of cool shit besides The Undertaker debuting that happened at Survivor Series. A lot of legendary moments that I probably took someone's. But yeah, so we'll go around the table free form and we'll just throw things out there. And I'm Craigathy. I'm going to start with you. What is your first one of your favorite Survivor Series moments that you can
I'm going to go ahead and do the lowest hanging fruit as possible. And I actually didn't really realize it was at a Survivor Series until doing some research. But the Montreal Screwjob in 1997 was Survivor Series.
Yeah, I purposely didn't choose that one.
You did it.
Because I knew somebody else would.
Yes. Yeah, I had a feeling the same. Well, but I guess the question is why is it your favorite? Because it's kind of an off-scripted set. Is it just because it shocked you? I mean, if you think that's not like those favorite moments,
it's just one of the most memorable moments for sure out of any
wasn't
event.
That pay-per-view themed gang rules? Because at the time, didn't WWE have a lot of factions? They had Los Boricuas. They had what was the biker one that they had? The Sons of Anarchy type thing. And they had they had DX, they had all this stuff or whatever. So I think the little tagline for that Survivor Series was "Gang Rules"
with a Z. So that's awesome. Rules. Yeah, with a Z.
I mean that means it's fucking kind of cool and hip if you put a Z on the end of it. Like news sites, NEWZ, fucking amazing, super reputable. But yeah, actually, Craig, it really is not just for the Montreal Screwjob, but I think it was like that changing attitude of the pun intended, of the WWF, where it was going towards anything could happen. WCW kind of ruled the roost for 96 and 97 in that with NWO, and then Vince finally got onto the whole thing, and then doing that that also introduced kind of the McMahon character, the Vince McMahon character. After that, like, that's when he finally did the Brett Scoot Brett, like shortly after that and everything, and like it changed everything. I think at that point.
Look at this! Oh, you're kidding me, Marcus? Are you going to try to beat Bret Hart with a sharpshooter? Yes, he is! Are you kidding me?
I'm a big fan of the time frame of the ruthless aggression era, and this is certainly part of it. And it's also a big part of the Heyman era when Heyman was running SmackDown. So when Heyman turned on Lesnar in 2002, that was like a big moment, and that was Lesnar finally losing for one, and obviously losing the title to Big Show. I think for several reasons it kind of humanizes Brock, puts him on a whole nother level, finally gets turned on, and this is, in my opinion, the best version of Paul White, Big Show, Giant, whatever you want to call him, that we ever saw. When he was in this version of the Big Show, and I remember triple threats here with Brock and Big Show and Angle and all sorts of craziness going on, where SmackDown was running the roost. Nobody wants to admit it, but it was the better brand for years when this was going on. SmackDown was really the key of everything at this time because of Heyman and this churn. Because at this point, like, what do you do with Lesnar? How do you make him lose? How do you humanize him? And this was the moment. Him being double crossed by Paul for another Paul was it. I thought it was a great moment, and I think it set off a lot of things.
21 years ago, so they've been together 21 years.
Isn't that amazing?
Or Brock's been. That's crazy.
Involved somehow in Paul Heyman, yeah. So I'm going to piggyback off that, Dave.
Well, actually, but I just want to add to that.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Are you talking about the same? You're about to say the same?
No, go ahead.
Same year. I just want to say, I picked that one as one of mine, but because it was the debut of the Elimination Chamber in that year, and the very first time they did that match, and that was the main event.
So do you want to say that as your second choice? Because I did choose that Elimination Chamber.
I'm so sorry.
And, no. It's a memorable moment for a reason. So just let that be your second one. That's fine.
No, I have another one, but I that was awesome that for two different reasons that was chosen. But like to debut,
plug it in, Jess. You're going next anyway, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to piggyback off Dave, and I have Brock Lesnar versus Bill Goldberg from Survivor Series 2016.
Oh, wow.
And when they brought Goldberg back, everybody rolled their eyes. Because listen, I know what they were trying to do with Goldberg or whatever. Like Vince he makes attractions, when they get older and they're attractions, and they only wrestle X amount of times a year. But we're like, like Goldberg, in our opinion, is not the same ilk as like bringing back a Lesnar or bringing back who else can we say like he brought back like Edge or anything like that. Like because Goldberg can't work. Like let's be honest. Like I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just he can't. And so or bringing Orton back when Orton comes back or whatever. It's not the same. But they made this match 5 minutes. It was explosive. People died. And like it was just out of nowhere, Goldberg spears him right when the bell rang. And then Michael Cole just did such an amazing job of being like, we've never seen this. No one's ever hit Lesnar this early. Usually it's Lesnar that bull rushes the other person, but Goldberg beat him to it, hits him with a second spear, and then gives him the God damn it, jackhammer, and pins him. And the match was less than 5 minutes.
Jackhammer. He's looking for the jackhammer. Goldberg looking for the jackhammer. A jackhammer to Lesnar. Here's the cover. Oh my God! Goldberg beat Brock. Here is your winner, Goldberg. A monumental upset. After 12 years, Goldberg returns to the ring and absolutely destroys the beast.
And that was the main event of Survivor Series, and everybody started talking. It was the best way. It was the way WCW used to book Goldberg. I will never forget it. Like, and it was even the hardest wrestling critics, like Brian Alvarez, was like, "That shit was awesome." They're like, "It was 3 minutes.
There was no other way you could have done it."
Like, yeah. And then they rematched later. I don't know if it was at WrestleMania that year or whatever. And that match was also 6 minutes, but they speared each other through the guardrail on the outside. They broke tables. Again, people died. Things blew up. And again, even the hardest wrestling critic was like, that shit was awesome. Like, that was that's what you want. When you see Goldberg, it's like, I don't want to see more than 5 minutes of him. Like, when I see his entrance, I want to see that. And then when he gets in the ring, I don't want to see a 10-minute, 15, 20-minute Goldberg match. It can't happen. Are we on round 2 now?
Yeah. Totally.
I will start round 2, and I'm going to say Shawn Michaels versus Sid Vicious from Survivor Series 1996.
Oh, dear.
The reason why that was so different is the Shawn championship run, the boyhood dream, like all that wasn't working. Because again, this is late 1996. The NWO had already been a thing for a couple months, and the wrestling audience was turning more towards realism. And not only is this the night where Brett took on Stone Cold for the first time and had a great match and kind of put Stone Cold on the map, but watching that crowd, the Madison Square Garden crowd, boo Shawn Michaels, and Vince always used Madison Square Garden as a barometer. And when Sid came down, people cheered the shit out of him, and he was a heel. And I remember him grabbing the camera and hitting Jose Lothario with it, and then hitting Michaels with it, and power bombing him and pinning him clean. And like, we were in my living room going, holy shit. Like, we hadn't seen that since Vader beat Sting clean in 92. A heel just fucking full on. Like, I know he used a camera to do it, but it did to us. We were getting so used to violence and different things in 96, 97 that wasn't cheating to us. The fact that he like pinned Shawn Michaels clean when Shawn was the boyhood dream guy, like, it was amazing to me. And I'll never forget that moment, because it was like the wrestling fans trying to tell Vince, like, hey, catch up. Like, you need to catch up. That this other channel, and the other channel beat the shit out of him for an extra year, by the way. But it really kickstarted Austin. It showed Vince, I mean, that puts Sid on the map as far as like when we talk about legends. I know titles are given to other people, but like Vince was like, we got to put it on Sid. For some reason, Vince thought that, and he knew it going into Survivor Series, not knowing Michaels was going to get booed out of the arena. I'll never forget too, where Michaels went up on the top rope to drop his signature elbow on Sid, and he looked out to the crowd, and most of them are booing. And he looked at them and he's like, fuck you. Like, and it was like this raw, like, holy shit, like, this baby face is talking back to the crowd. And he's doing what anybody would do, right? Even if you're a baby face, if someone's booing you, you'd be like, shut the fuck up. Like, and he was...
Was that the plan, or was he just kind of thrown by it?
I think he was just thrown by it. I think, like, he got up on the rope and, like, he looked at the crowd and you hear the girls, like, the high-pitched scream, but you hear boom, like, from everybody else. And he's like, fuck, like, he was just fuck off. Like, like, and he had enough, because all match they were booing him. And every time Sid did anything, they'd explode. And it was just like this amazing kind of organic thing that you saw before organic became a thing with Daniel Bryan and all that stuff or whatever. Sure. It was like this organic, like, we were trying to tell Vince, like, you need to straighten your shit up. You need to get more edgy. You need to get cooler. And it took them almost a year to figure it out, but like, they finally did. So my offering is Shawn versus Sid, the main event of Survivor Series 1996.
Sid, S-I-D, suddenly I'm dominant. I already thought that when he was about 12 years old. He was over 6 feet tall when he was 12 years old.
He has been a dominating force here in the World Wrestling Federation for some time, and now his moment has arrived.
Awesome.
Interesting. Okay. I don't want to say it's not that kind of a shift. I don't think it's a little bit different, and this is when they're well on their way to the upper echelon. Is The Rock actually wins his first title at Survivor Series in 1998.
I'm so glad you said that, because I purposely didn't pick that one, but I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, it's interesting because he turns his back on the people to become the first, like, that corporate champion, and they screw Mankind out of the title and the whole bit. It's an excellent story, and you knew The Rock was destined for it once he chose.
Can I interrupt you for a second, Dave?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. You just gave Vince Russo major credit, because it was all Vince Russo's idea. All this was.
Hey,
what, the entire Deadly Game, the tournament and everything?
Yep. And turning The Rock and doing the swerve. It was the first swerve, bro, that we'd ever really seen, like, on a big storyline level. I mean, we've seen
twice a day, man. You know what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Fair enough. I agree with that statement too.
I mean, coming off the Montreal Screwjob in '97, they needed something, and it was the first Survivor Series without a Survivor Series 4-on-4, 5-on-5 too, and the first one without Bret Hart.
Sharpshooter. There's a sharpshooter. Sharpshooter. Hey, McMahon said ring the bell. Wait a minute. What?
You smell what the Rock is cooking.
Wait a minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a result of submission, the winner and new World Wrestling Federation champions, The Hook.
What the hell? They were in on it all along. All three of them. They screwed us all.
All right. What's Craig's on the next one, right?
Well, mine was mine was '98. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, bud.
I'm gonna go with 2012
Okay.
for two things, and the debut of the Shield.
Oh,
Coming in and beating some stuff down.
shut
and then
up! The Shield debuted 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn! Wow.
I thought that was a memorable one, and then I think CM Punk was in the final of that one.
Mm.
Where's it? Yeah, Punk versus John Cena versus Ryback in a triple threat was the main event.
Oh my!
Yikes!
But the debut of the Shield is something to.
Well, that's what they destroyed, right? They interrupted that main event and
Well, they did, and they came out. Okay, I didn't know it was Survivor Series. That's crazy.
yeah.
I had no idea.
The Undertaker's not the only one that debuted at Survivor Series. Fucking.
And the old Rocky Maivia did it in '96.
Yeah.
His debut was apparently Survivor Series.
It's a good safe spot to do it when you think about it. You're not putting them in the big four, you know. Oh no, that was a big four. I'm sorry at the time.
Well, I will go with another debut, and this is going to be Team Cena against Team Authority in 2014. Not only is it to this day still heralded as one of the greatest Survivor Series classic elimination matches, but the end saw Sting debut for the WWE. And he came out and he did his finisher on Triple H, and that set up the WrestleMania 31, where we all know Sting won, and Triple H would never play politics. But yes, this match was amazing anyway. It was probably, I still think to this day, it's probably one of the best, like, classic 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 Survivor Series matches I've ever seen. And Dolph Ziggler ends up winning at the end because Sting came out. And
what year was that, Jess? You said
it was 2014.
Wow.
Right on.
The debut of Stingus.
Hey guys, here's the cover. No! Team Cena wins.
Here's your winner, Dolph Ziggler and Team Cena.
Oh, happy day! The Authority is gone.
Wow. Did we know? Were we spoiled on that? I don't remember back then whether we
a little bit. I think a little bit because he had already done the video game. He would already months before he already did. He was on the cover, I think, of one of the WWE 2K things, and his playable character became a thing. And because he took on Triple H, WrestleMania 31 was 2015. So yeah, that set up their Sting versus Triple H match at WrestleMania 31.
Okay,
WrestleMania 30 was 2014.
I'm gonna go total childhood nostalgia on this one for you, and you have to know where I'm going. And I still remember. I remember it all the time when Hogan and Warrior won the final fight of survival, and it was
final match of survival in '90.
It was as a kid, dude. Like you knew it was good guys versus bad guys, and when you felt that as a kid, you're like, yeah, they're the bad guys, and the bad guys need to lose, and when they won that match and beat all, it was like 3-on-6 at one point, and Tito was out right away, and
we always remember that too for Tito actually being in there with him. He's like, hi, like right in the middle,
and then he was gone, and
Yeah.
But
we always
Warrior
view
were
that as like Vince was like saying thank you because Tito had been a big part a long time with that company, you know?
And that part of it kind of gets me later. It kind of gets me in the feels because we didn't know that back then. We know it now. But when I was a kid, Warrior and Hogan were it, man. And it was watching those guys collide later and watching them work together here. And I mean, they were at the top of the wrestling world. And to watch them just beat everybody one by one, and the crowd just gets higher and higher and higher. And then it's like that echelon at the end. And, you know, they're all posing at the end, having a good time. And it was, I don't know, man, as a kid, that was kind of the bee's knees, man. That was it. Just watching those guys do it.
I remember my mom and dad. That was my first. That was my first Survivor Series I ever got on pay per view. Was 1990. My first ever pay per view I got was WrestleMania 6, which was earlier that year, and then I ended up getting SummerSlam, and then I got Survivor Series 90. So that Survivor Series 90, and I remember it might have still been the day of Thanksgiving. I think it was still on Thanksgiving that night because I remember just watching it by myself because none of my friends had come over because they were all.
How many pay-per-views would you be able to watch, Jess, and see where you could see Hogan wrestle twice? And if others, Warrior, Tito, I can't remember. Was it the entire Perfect Team? I can't remember which team it was. It
was the entire team of the Visionaries. It was
that's what it was.
The Warlord, Power and Glory, and Rick the Model, and then DiBiase survived his match. So DiBiase came over, and it was that team and DiBiase against Hogan, Warrior, and Tito.
Yeah. And
I remember Tito pinned the Barbarian the Warlord in like 2 seconds because Hogan hates the Warlord and every time.
And then Tito was gone right after that. Yeah.
Someone said something to Hogan like, "You always beat the Warlord." He's like, "Fine, it's not Tito's going to go over." And they're like, "Fine, I shouldn't have said anything."
Should have said anything.
Shouldn't have said anything.
Yeah.
Well, then I will. Craig, do you have another offering?
No, that was mine.
I will end it then because I think we're at a good time too, and we've just kind of. I love it. I'm going to go ahead and just say the very first Survivor Series ever.
Yeah.
A whole pay-per-view. I'm not saying it was so amazing if you go back and watch it, but I remember that spectacle and the way the crowd was, and the first time you ever saw a 5-on-5 tag team Survivor Series match where they had an obnoxious amount of people on the fucking apron and you couldn't see in the ring. It was just amazing to me to see that for the first time. They did a women's one as well. And that Hogan main event, Hogan's team against Andre's team, that crowd was fucking on fire. Yeah. And I remember Hogan getting a massive pop, but Bigelow was over as shit in that main event. People were cheering Bigelow so fucking loud, dude. And even everybody was when Orndorff would tag in, every time anybody would tag in, even Ken Patera, the place would pop massive. This was at the height of pro wrestling in 1987 and the height of WWF. It was after Hogan slammed Andre. And every time Andre purposely stayed out on purpose and wouldn't touch Hogan. And you were just building the whole time. And Bundy was involved. The One Man Gang was involved. Rude, a really young Rick Rude, Natural Butch Reed. All of it was so fucking cool. The very first, the entire show to me, if you want to go back and watch how something starts and why they stuck with it for so long, there was something there. It was cool. I think the opening match was Randy Savage's team against Honky's team. So that was awesome as well. And it was just really, really fucking, the first show was really awesome. If you want to go back in a time capsule and look at your childhood, if you grew up in the 80s, Survivor Series 87 is crowd was fucking loud. It was crazy.
That was the epitome of taking every top talent from the territories and just meshing them all together in one pay-per-view.
Vince was just and by the way, the first Survivor Series was brought up to combat with Starrcade.
Yes.
Because Starrcade was in November originally. It was a Thanksgiving tradition as well. And the Vince is not so much. And so Vince put Survivor Series up against it and told all the pay-per-view providers, if you fucking go run the NWA, you won't get me anymore. You won't get WrestleMania 4. You won't get any of that stuff. So they're oh shit, we want WWF because they were doing big business. And that fucked Starrcade up. It really fucked Crockett up. It was one of the beginning downfalls of Crockett and why Crockett sold to Turner. That's a totally different story.
Vince just crushed everybody, man.
Yeah.
Days is brutal. Killed the territories.
So that's my offering is the entire first 87 Survivor Series.
And I didn't know that it was kind of the first 2 years were in the same place in Richfield, and like I think
yes, and on Thanksgiving night. I think the first 4 years was on Thanksgiving night, and I want to say the very first ever Survivor Series that was like the day before Thanksgiving and not on Thanksgiving was either 93 or 94. I know 94 for sure was the day before Thanksgiving because Craig, you came back from college, and I remember Derek was there and all that stuff, and that was the day before Thanksgiving, but I can't remember if 93 was on Thanksgiving or not. I can't remember, but somewhere around that, they changed it from Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's like the Saturday of, or sorry, Sunday of.
Yeah, and then they would go to the following Sunday or whatever.
Yep, exactly. Like it. For audio fans, give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Google. I'm sorry, no Stitcher, and Google Podcast, or watch our videos on YouTube at our wrestling channel. Went to the Stitcher on social media. Give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast. For no Stitcher, this is Jess, Craig, and Dave with the O.W.P signing off. Have a good one.